Yokoso oashitare. Welcome back. And this is part 2 of the story of the Shunpei Nyudo. Some of you may be wondering why the heck I'm suddenly referring to the main character as Shunpei Nyudo. I've been calling him Brad this whole time. That is because we didn't know his actual name. If you remember from part 1, at the end of it, Brad actually became a Buddhist priest. And when you become a priest, you take on a priest Buddhist name. And for this instance, Brad became the Shunpei Nyudo, kind of like his older brother. He became a Nyudo, a novice. And for whatever reason, it doesn't explain, but he was given the title Shunpei along with Nyudo. And if you have any questions about who this main character is, please see the previous video for all the lowdown on that. It's very expository heavy, it's very explanatory, but check that one out too. However, to continue on with the actual story, because this is where things actually get interesting. One day, the Shunpei Nyudo, aka Brad, was hanging out at home, at his temple. And he happened to have a bunch of ladies present this night. Now, before any of you guys get any ideas, no, Brad was not planning on doing anything untoward with them or to them. They were just there because it was the night of Koshin. And this was something I had to look up. What is Koshin? Well, the ancient Japanese, and I believe the ancient Chinese, I don't know where this tradition comes from, but they believed that within their body, there were these worms, or these insects. I believe they specifically believed that there were 3 of them, that on the night of Koshin, they would exit the body and go up into heaven and declare to the gods or the Buddhas or whoever, some supernatural powerful beings, all of the things you did terrible. All of the bad things that you did. And then that would inevitably bring the wrath of the gods upon you, punishment, unfortunate circumstances, the whole 9 yards. However, these worms would only leave your body while you were asleep. So, if you didn't go to sleep on the night of Koshin, then they wouldn't exit your body, they wouldn't be able to go up into the heavens to declare your sins to the gods, and you'd be fine. Now, did the ancient Japanese actually believe this? I mean, I think some of them probably did, but, you know, it was just kind of a tradition that everybody did. So on the night of Koshin, you all stayed up all night long. And so maybe because there's a quasi-religious sentiment attached to it, all of these ladies were hanging out at Brad's place, who was a Buddhist priest. And now Brad, again, because he had been cursed, and if you want to know more about the curse, again, please see video 1, he was kind of hanging out just in the corner, sitting there, staring blankly off into space, as he so often did. And the night grew late, grew very, very late, and everybody was still up and about, doing whatever they were doing, but they were starting to get tired. They were starting to fall asleep, to nod off a little bit, and that was a problem. Don't want to fall asleep lest the worms escape. And then one of these ladies, one who seemed to particularly hold herself high, one who had confidence bordering on arrogance, came to Shunpei Nyudo, Brad, and told him, "Mr. Novice, sir, we hear that you are someone who is gifted in the ways of conversation. So please, tell us some stories, and tell us a couple of jokes to get us to laugh, lest we fall asleep and the worms escape. If we can hear some good jokes, I'm sure we'll be able to stay awake." And Brad, after snapping out of staring blankly off into space, kindly told these women, "Well, my dear ladies, unfortunately, I am not somebody who is actually gifted in words. And unfortunately, I just do not know any stories or jokes that you would find amusing or that would make you laugh. However, if it is laughter that you want, I do know some ways that I can provide that. Though, it's not going to be with my words, I can make you laugh if you so desire." And the ladies, the ones speaking for them in particular, were kind of stunned at this, like, okay. So, if you're going to make us laugh, but you're not going to tell us jokes, what are you going to do? Are you going to do a sarugaku? And a sarugaku, for those who don't know, is a kind of silly dance. Back in the time, it eventually developed into a full-fledged artistic form, but back in this time, it was kind of something lowbrow and silly and not very serious. It was something funny. Literally, the term saru means monkey, and gaku means, well, it means like fun or enjoyment, but is also used in this case to signify dancing. But again, so this lady asks, "So are you going to do some sarugaku for us? Are you going to put on a show? You're going to make us laugh? How is that any better than telling jokes?" And the Shunpei Nyudo just kind of grinned a little bit. He got this wry, sly smile on his face. No, my lady. I'm not going to do any dances for you, but I can still make you laugh." And at this, the lady said, "Well, okay, I have no clue what you could possibly do, but go ahead, make us laugh, hurry, hurry, hurry. And at her words, the Shunpei Nyudo, Brad, immediately got up and ran off somewhere into some other deep part of the temple, just disappeared. And a moment later, he came back carrying a bunch of the san sticks that we mentioned in the previous video. If you want to know what san is, again, please watch part 1. Brad bringing all of these math sticks. Again, imagine somebody saying to you, hey, I want you to tell a joke, and you immediately run in to the other room, grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and start writing down math equations, right? That's essentially what, from this lady's perspective, the Shunpei Nyudo was now doing. And so he comes in with all of these little magic math sticks, and he starts setting them up, right? And all the ladies, and especially the one who was speaking for all of them, just kind of looked at this and wondered, okay, is this supposed to be funny? Is this supposed to be funny? Are we supposed to be laughing here? You said you would make us laugh, and yet you're throwing math equations at our face. What is this? And upon asking him this, Brad didn't say anything. He just kept setting up the little sticks, kept doing math, and eventually he got done setting everything up. Almost. But he had one stick left that he still had to place. And then he turned to the ladies and said, my ladies, if you do not find this amusing, in one moment I will make you laugh like you have never laughed in your life. And the head lady then cracked a joke. Yeah, you thinking that doing math in front of our faces is funny is actually funny. And then she rolled her eyes, probably really hard at it. And then Brad, with yet another sly smile on his face, placed the final stick into the divination pattern. And as soon as he did this, all of the ladies in the room immediately burst into really loud, raucous laughter. Every single one of them just started keeling over. They were laughing so hard. And they laughed, and they laughed, and they laughed. And I'm sure some of you guys have experienced this when you're in that mood where everything just seems really funny. And you're around people who are cracking jokes, and you're laughing so hard, but they keep dropping jokes that are just on point, and you can't stop. And you can't stop, and your sides start to hurt. And you start crying tears, and you're rolling on the floor, and you're thinking to yourself, seriously, I need to stop, because this is actually getting painful. Well, that's exactly what happened to these ladies. They could not stop. No matter what they did, they just kept laughing and laughing and laughing. The story specifically says that it felt like their stomachs, their midsections were being cut apart. And as they were crying, shedding tears, they were laughing so hard, they started thinking that they might actually die if this keeps up. This was taking such a huge toll on them. And because they were laughing, they couldn't say anything either. They couldn't tell the Nyudo to stop. Please stop. Okay, we get it. You're making us laugh. Please stop. But they couldn't speak. So a couple of them managed to collect themselves enough that they went over to the Nyudo and they put their hands together and they pleaded with him. This was a sign in ancient Japan. Please, 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 please. This is what you do when you pray. And they just put their hands together and they bowed their heads. The whole time they're still laughing. And the Shunpei Nyudo looked at these women and said, I told you, didn't I? I said I was going to make you laugh. Have you had your fill of laughter, my dear ladies? And they showed him, through their actions, by keeping their hands together, bowing their heads, and nodding, that yes, they had had enough. The Nyudo then went to his little makeshift divination stick pattern, and he slapped it. And the whole thing broke apart, and as soon as that happened, the laughter died. All the ladies stopped immediately. And as they were sitting there, huffing and puffing, trying to catch their breath, and you could hear amidst all of them talking back and forth to each other. One of them saying something like, if that had gone on any longer, I swear I would have died. And another one said something to the effect of, I have never experienced anything so horrible or so painful in all my life. And after they had taken a minute to catch their breath, they immediately all fell down and just laid there on the floor like they had caught some sort of terrible sickness. They were just out. They couldn't do anything. They didn't want to stand up. They didn't want to walk. They just had to lay there because it had taken so much out of them. And the story then finally ends with this last little paragraph, pointing out that our boy Brad, the Shunpei Nyudo, never did actually learn those techniques that were meant to kill people. And yet, even without any knowledge of those, he could still take people out if he so desired. And so if he could do this with just laughter magic, if he knew some of those deeper, scarier skills, oh boy, he would have been such a terrifying force in the whole country. Would have actually been very, very bad. And thus is it said that the way of San, of this Chinese magical math, contained within it such terrifying and terrible techniques as to be able to slay people without a second thought. Okay, and that is the final bit of this story. Thank you for listening to this story. I find this one particularly interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please let me know in the comments. If you want to know more about some of the wording in the story, please ask me, feel free to ask. And if you like the story, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel because there are plenty of other stories where that came from. And I will thank you one final time, Ito katejike no koso haberi kere, and hopefully we will see you in the next story in roughly a week. Adios.